and his search for absolute truth is discussed, like how he was born from the navel of the Karanodakshai Vishnu, Garbhodakshai Vishnu, and then what all things happened, how he came to know about what to do and how to realize the Supreme Lord. All those things are discussed. And then he got a beautiful darshan of Lord Garbhodakshai Vishnu. From 24 to 33 it is described. And in this chapter, now Lord Brahma is born. Now his work is to create the universe. So universes and different entities of the universes. So Lord has created the universe, and Brahma is the creator of all the living entities which are there. So he is a secondary creator. So one of the subject matters of Srimad Bhagavatam is the Sarga, which is the creation. So the creation part, how happened, and Supreme Lord is the primary creator, and Lord Brahma is the secondary creator. So how he gets that energy? By praying to the Supreme Lord. And this chapter, 9th chapter on the 3rd canto, is Brahma's prayers for creative impetus. So from 1 to 5, it discusses about Lord's supreme form. And from 6 to 10, it discusses about the predicament of the conditioned souls. What are the difficulties of the conditioned souls? So from there it discusses. From 11 to 13, so this verse is 11, there is Lord's reciprocation to various devotees that is being discussed. But before that reciprocation happens, this is spoken by Lord Brahma about, this verse is spoken by Lord Brahma about the Supreme Lord. So let's recite this verse. Tvam bhakti yoga paribhavita hrit saroja.
Tvam bhakti yoga paribhavita hrit saroja.
Ase shrute kshita patho nanunatha pumsam.
Ase shrute kshita patho nanunatha pumsam.
Yad yad dhyata urugaya vibhavayanti.
Yad yad dhyata urugaya vibhavayanti.
Tat tat vapu pranayase sadanugrahaya.
Tat vapuh pranayase sadanugrahaya.
Time. Tvam bhakti yoga paribhavita hrit saroja.
Tvam bhakti yoga paribhavita hrit saroja.
Ase shrute kshita patho nanunatha pumsam.
Ase shrute kshita patho nanunatha pumsam.
Yad yad dhyata urugaya vibhavayanti.
Yad yad dhyata urugaya vibhavayanti.
Tat tad vapuhu pranayase sadanugrahaya.
Tat tad vapuh pranayase sadanugrahaya.
Tvam bhakti yoga paribhavita hrit saroja.
Tvam bhakti yoga paribhavita hrit saroja.
Ase kshute kshita patho nanunatha pumsam.
Ase shrute kshita patho nanunatha pumsam.
Yad yad dhyata urugaya vibhavayanti.
Yad yad dhyata urugaya vibhavayanti.
Tat tad vapuhu pranayase sadanugrahaya.
Tat tad vapuh pranayase sadanugrahaya.
Thank you. Please recite 3 voluntary recitations. Thank you.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Tvam bhakti yoga paribhavita hrit saroja.
Tvam bhakti yoga paribhavita hrit saroja.
Ase shrute kshita patho nanunatha pumsam.
Ase shrute kshita patho nanunatha pumsam.
Yad yad dhyata urgaya vibhavayanti.
Yad
Yat yat
yata
yata
urugaya vibhavayanti.
vayanti.
tat tad vapuh pranayase sadanugrahaya.
Tat
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 vapuh
vapuh
pranayase
pranayase
sadanugrahaya.
sadanugrahaya. Hare Krishna. Thank you,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna. Anybody
Hare
want to
Krishna.
recite?
Tvam bhakti yoga paribhavita hit saroja.
Tvam
Tvam
bhakti
bhakti
yoga
yoga
paribhavita
paribhavita
hritsaroja.
hritsaroja.
Ase srutekshita patho nanu natha pumsam.
Ase
Ase
shrute
shrute
kshita
kshita
patho
pato nanunatha
nanunatha pumsam.
pumsam.
Yadyadhyata urugaya bhagavayanti.
Yad
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 yata
dhyata
urugaya
urugaya
vibhavayanti.
bhavayanti.
Tat tad vapuh pranayase sat anugrahaya.
Tat tat
Tat tad
vapuh
vapuh
pranayase
pranayase
sadanugrahaya.
sadanugrahaya.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. One more recitation.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Tvam bhakti yoga paribhavita hritsaroja.
Tvam
Tvam
bhakti
bhakti
yoga
yoga
paribhavita
paribhavita
hritsaroja.
hritsaroja.
Ase shrute kshita patho nanunatha pumsam.
Ase
Ase
shrute
shrute
kshita patho
kshita pato
nanunatha
nanunatha
pumsam.
pumsam.
Yadyadhyata urugaya vibhavayanti.
Yad yad
Yad yad
Vibhavayanti.
yata
dhiyata
urugaya
urgaya
vibhavayanti.
vibhavayanti.
Tattadvapuh pranayase sadanugrahaya.
Tat
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 tad
vapuh
vapuh
pranayase
pranayase
sadanugrahaya.
sadanugrahaya.
Thank you so much. So this verse is actually discussing about the how the verses or the how we can realize the Supreme Lord by hearing or by through the eyes of the Shastras. So let's see. Tvam Bhakti Yoga Paribhavita. Tvam is Lord Brahma is saying about Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. Tvam Bhakti Yoga. Bhakti Yoga Paribhavita. Paribhavita is completely immersed, totally immersed in Bhakti Yoga. Of whom? Of the Supreme Lord. Hrit Saroja. Hrit Saroja. Hrit is Hridaya or the heart, and Saroja is a lotus. Lotus heart of whom? The devotees. Ase. Ase means resides there. So Lord always resides at the lotus heart of the devotees. So here, one thing to know is that when we look at the discussion of our acharyas, other acharyas, so they say, like for example, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur say, Bhakti, even without jna, delivers one from material existence. But more than that, through Bhakti, the Lord becomes dependent on the devotee. And Bhavita means infused with. And he says, you sit on the lotus in devotees' hearts, infused completely with Bhakti Yoga. Or the phrase can mean in devotees' hearts manifested by Bhakti Yoga. And he also says that once he enters into the heart, he remains there. So there is also a verse which comes from other Puranas actually, which glorifies Srimad Bhagavatam, where Narad Muni is actually telling this verse after hearing Srimad Bhagavatam from 4 Kumaras. He's saying, Sada Sevya, Srimad Bhagavati Katha, Yasya Prasada Matrena, Hari Chittam Niveshaya. So with what is the mercy of Srimad Bhagavatam? Hari is already in the Chitta. And when he goes inside, Samashrayat, sorry. Hari Chittam Samashrayat. He goes and take ashraya in the heart of the devotees. So here it says how this ashraya is being obtained by the devotees. Shrute ikshita patho means Shruti. Shruti is the scriptures, and ikshita is by the eyes or by the vision of the Shruti. Patho nanu natha punsam, and that path to the heart is revealed through the scriptures, and by hearing those scriptures, Lord is coming and residing in the heart of the devotee. Yad yad dhiya, and then what happens? Yad yad dhiya. Dhiya means the intelligence, and yad yad means that two times it is being told. When there is in the intelligence, the urugaya. Urugaya means multi-glorious Supreme Lord. Vibhayanti means specifically thinking. So when the devotee, whoever, whatever form of the Lord, the devotee thinks in his heart, in his mind, in his intelligence, when he meditates upon the Lord, tat vapuhu, that form of the Lord is manifested sadanugrahaya. Pranayasa means to manifest, and sadanugrahaya means to show the causeless. So with anugraha, Lord gives that form to that devotee. If somebody is meditating on the form of Lord Narasimhadeva appears. And and somebody is thinking about Lord Ramachandra appears. Like for example, there is a instance from Chaitanya Charitamrita where Murari Gupta, who is incarnation of Hanuman, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says to think about Krishna and you should always worship the Supreme Lord all the time. He and only about Krishna, about nobody else. He tried in the night, and next day he came to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and told that I tried to meditate upon the form of Krishna and think about Krishna, but I could not because I am too much attached to the form of Sri Ramachandra, and I'm totally devoted to that. And if you think, and I don't feel that I could be able to follow your instruction. So it's better I should go and leave my body. I cannot follow your instruction. The more I try, I cannot. Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reveals, don't worry. I understand you are the incarnation of Hanuman. And that time, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu manifests himself as the form of Lord Ramachandra in front of Murari Gupta, and he sees that beautiful form, and Lord says, you chant Sri Ram's name, your bhakti and your bhava is for him, and through that you can also get me. It's not a it's like it's your inclination, and wherever your inclination is, I'll fix there. You chant and you think about Lord Ramachandra, you can chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra. It will be automatically manifested. So it says here, tat vapuhu pranayase sadanugraha. That vapuhu is given because of the anugraha. So let's see the translation now.
O my Lord, your devotees can see you through the ears by the process of bona fide hearing, and thus their hearts become cleansed, and you take your seat there. You are so merciful to your devotees that you manifest yourself in the particular eternal form of transcendence in which they always think of you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. So here, Srila Prabhupada in the translation paraphrases this very beautifully. Your devotees can see you through the ears. How they are seeing through the ears? By the process of bona fide hearing of scriptures. And when that hearing happens, then the heart becomes cleansed. And when the heart becomes cleansed, it is good for the Supreme Lord to come and take his seat there. So beautifully it is paraphrased and explained here. And Lord is so merciful, tadanugrahaya, that part. You are so merciful to your devotees that you manifest yourself in that particular form that he is thinking. Means eternal form of transcendence in which they always think of you. So let's read the purport and discuss more.
And here that the Lord manifests himself before the devotee in the form in which the devotee likes to worship him indicates that the Lord becomes subordinate to the desire of the devotee, so much so that he manifests his particular form as the devotee demands. This demand of the devotee is satisfied by the Lord because he is pliable in terms of the transcendental loving service of the devotee. This is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 4:11. Ye yata mam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajamyaham. We should note, however, that the Lord is never the order supplier of the devotee. Here in this verse, it is particularly mentioned, Tvam Bhakti Yoga Paribhavita. This indicates the efficiency achieved through execution of mature devotional service or prema, love of Godhead. This state of prema is achieved by the gradual process of development from faith to love. On faith, one associates with bona fide devotees, and by such association, one can become engaged in bona fide devotional service, which includes proper initiation and the execution of the primary devotional duties prescribed in the revealed scriptures. This is clearly indicated herein by the word Shrutekshita. The Shrutekshita path is to hear from bona fide devotees who are conversant with Vedic wisdom, free from mundane sentiment. By this bona fide hearing process, the neophyte devotee becomes cleansed of all material rubbish, and thus he becomes attached to one of the many transcendental forms of the Lord as described in the Vedas. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu.
Let's discuss this part and then we'll go to the second part. So Srila Prabhupada starts here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. He starts here. The statement here that Lord manifests himself before the devotee is in the form which devotee likes. So as we discussed, that he manifests in the form what a devotee has connection with and what he likes. So much so that he manifests his particular form as the devotee demands. That is so beauty of Lord. So that's what the last part of the verse that we discussed. One thing to note here is this demand of the devotee is satisfied by the Lord because he is pliable. The very beautiful term is pliable. Like he is means so much molded by, you can say, by the transcendental loving service of the devotee, that he wants to do whatever the devotee wants and whichever form he wants to see. But again, Srila Prabhupada says here, Lord is not never the order supplier of the devotee. It's not because he wants to do what the devotee orders. This is because of the love. The Lord is so much moved. I would say not moved. Lord is not affected by anything, but by love, he is very much moved that he actually becomes like subordinate. Then other verses says he becomes a subordinate of a devotee. And he loves that reciprocation. That is so beautiful. So we should note here that Lord is never the order supplier of the devotee. Here in this verse, this is particularly Tvam Bhakti Yoga Paribhavita. Paribhavita is deeply immersed. And Prabhupada here refers to it as in the kind of a prema with the Supreme Lord. It's very higher stage of devotee. So it says mature. That's why it's execution of mature devotional service. When devotional service matures, then a devotee is totally 24 hours, all the time thinking about the Lord. He is paribhavita, totally immersed. Every time he's thinking about the Lord. Paribhavita. This state of prema is achieved by gradual process of development from faith to love, from ado shraddha to prema. So many steps in bhakti. On faith, one associates with bona fide devotees. Then first, how it starts by ado shraddha. So when there is shraddha, then one associates with the bona fide devotees, and such association, he engaged in all the devotional activities. And one of the engagement in devotional activity is hearing. And he hears from scriptures from a bona fide source. And Shrutekshita. Shruti Ikshita, the path shown by the different scriptures. So when that path is shown by the different scriptures, through that path, the neophyte devotee, when he starts from Ado Shraddha, Tatah Bhajana Kriya, then Anartha Nivrutti, all those steps happen. But here you see here, free from mundane sentiment, he becomes free from mundane sentiment. And then by this bona fide hearing process, the neophyte devotee becomes cleansed of all material rubbish. Thus becomes attached to one of the many transcendental forms. Wherever the devotee's attraction is, he attracts to that form of the Lord. Let's read the other part of the purport.
This attachment of the devotee to a particular form of the Lord is due to natural inclination. Each and every living entity is originally attached to a particular type of transcendental service because he is eternally the servitor of the Lord. Lord Chaitanya says that the living entity is eternally a servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Sri Krishna, therefore, every living entity Shri Krishna, therefore, every living entity has a particular type of service relationship with the Lord eternally. This particular attachment is invoked by practice of regulative devotional service to the Lord, and thus the devotee becomes attached to the eternal form of the Lord, exactly like one who is already eternally attached. This attachment for a particular form of the Lord is called Swarupa Siddhi. The Lord sits on the lotus heart of the devotee in the eternal form, the pure devotee desire, and thus the Lord does not part from the devotee. As confirmed in the previous verse, the Lord, however, does not disclose himself to a casual or unauthentic worshippers to be exploited. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Naham prakashah sarvasya yoga maya samvritah. Rather, by yoga maya, the Lord remains concealed to the non-devotees or casual devotees who are serving their sense gratification. The Lord is never visible to the pseudo-devotees who worship the demigods in charge of universal affairs. The conclusion is that the Lord cannot become the order supplier of a pseudo-devotees, but he is always prepared to respond to the desire of a pure, unconditional devotee who is free from things, all things of material infection. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Mataji. So, Srila Prabhupada in this section of the purport further clarifies or reiterates the thing that attachment of devotee to a particular form of the Lord is due to the natural inclination. And as then he goes on to tell what Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentioned and what is our real position. Jiver Swarup Hoy, Krishna Nityadas. So that is what it is. He is eternally the servitor of the Lord, or the Supreme Lord. Lord Chaitanya says that living entity is eternally a servitor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. So therefore, every living entity has a particular type of service relationship. So that relationship is there. And with that service relationship, he is attached to the Supreme Lord. So every living entity has that, but he has forgotten due to the external energy of the Lord and because of the covering. But as with the bhakti process, as he get purified to a particular level, then by the mercy of the Guru, he is able to know what his Swarupa is. So this attachment for a particular form of the Lord, the Swarupa Siddhi, then he attains that Swarupa Siddhi by the mercy of the spiritual master. This happened beyond when at a very higher advanced stage of bhakti, when there is a realization of Swarupa Siddhi. The Lord sits on the lotus heart of that devotee in that eternal form of whatever form pure devotee desires, that form, whatever form he is thinking about. There are many forms of the Lord. Whichever form he desires, he does that. And one thing here is very beautifully Srila Prabhupada mentioned. Can anybody exploit Lord? No. So here it says that a worshipper can exploit, say, Lord is my order carrier. Whatever I would desire, Lord would do it. It doesn't happen that way, because Lord already told, Naham prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavritah. I am not visible to all, because I am, because of my yogamaya, they cannot see me. Like, for example, when we see, when Lord was manifesting his Krishna Leela, so many people saw him. Duryodhana saw him, Kansa saw him, but they could not realize what his form is. But other devotees like Uddhava, like Arjuna, like Pandavas, they also saw, but they could really understand his real position, because their eyes are animated with love for the Supreme Lord. So people who wants to see that, okay, we could do something by our ways and Lord would be our order carrier, never happens. Lord is beyond everything. He is not controlled by anything except for the devotional service of a devotee. And that devotion should be pure, not as pseudo, as here it says, pseudo devotee here. Cannot become order supplier of pseudo devotee. He's always prepared to respond, but he's always prepared to respond to the desires of a pure, unconditional devotee who is free from all tinges of material infection. We all have some tinge of material infection, but what happens with the gradual process of bhakti, these all tinges are purified. And then we can experience, by the mercy of the spiritual master, our Swarupa. And our attachment to Supreme Lord happen in that Swarupa. And that relationship, there are 5 different relationships which can be there, which are described. And in what relationship we attach to the Supreme Lord is being revealed to us when we are in that advanced stage. So what is the take home from this verse is that we should hear the scriptures. By hearing, through our ears, we can see the Supreme Lord. How? By hearing the scriptures from a bona fide source and contemplating and working in our life in that direction, so that we advance in the stage of bhakti. And Lord is so merciful that he manifests the form that we desire to see, or we yearn to have relationship with. So this is, I'll pause here and we can have more discussion.